We're glad to have your company. This is what we have top of our stories. The presidents of Rwanda and France have noted that the symposium on the genocide, bringing together researchers from both countries, is an important step in further exposing the truth about the 1994 genocide that was perpetrated against the Tutsi here in Rwanda. Salj Inhore kicks us off.
The two heads of state made the remarks as a symposium on genocide focusing on the genocide against the Tutsi began on Sunday, and it was stressed that any reports on the truth of that tragedy should not be considered the final word on the matter, rather a step in the right direction.
Dear scholars and friends, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to Kigali for the first session of this international conference on the genocide against the Tutsi. Soyez les bienvenus. Until recently, a scientific meeting on this topic, bringing together French and Rwandan researchers, would have been almost unimaginable. But last year, with the historic visit of President Macron to Rwanda, we have turned the page to a new chapter in our relations, which is now being written. I take this opportunity to once again commend President Macron's political courage and sincerity. The visit was made possible by the efforts of our countries to establish the facts. Working entirely independently and using different sources and methods, the teams led by Professor Vincent Duclerc and Robert Muse reached conclusions that broadly reinforced one another. But those reports are not the last word. It is ultimately the task of professional historians and researchers to document the historical record for future generations. This conference is therefore of the highest significance, with the first session here in Kigali and another next year in Paris. I would like to commend the organizing committee led by Professor Duclerc and Professor Charles Mulinda Kabwete of the University of Rwanda for the hard work. I also acknowledge the funding from the French government, which has made this event possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you fruitful deliberations and an enjoyable stay in Rwanda.
On his part, France's President Emmanuel Macron noted on the importance of remembering the genocide against the Tutsi, saying the practice will continue in his country, and spoke on the need to do proper research on what happened.
Le colloque international sur le génocide des Tutsis, auquel vous allez prendre part, est une nouvelle...
Ladies and gentlemen, the International Symposium on the Genocide Against the Tutsi that you are participating in is a new and important step in exposing the truth, something we have committed ourselves to. On France's part, this meeting expands on the responsibilities I charged Professor Vincent Duclerc and his commission with back in 2019. His report and the complementary work that was done on the Rwandan side, requested by President Kagame, opened up a new chapter in Rwanda-French bilateral relations, as well as the relationship between the younger generations of our two countries. As part of these renewed efforts, I commend Rwanda for hosting the French Film Festival, and as I committed back in 2018, the genocide against the Tutsi will continue to be given its proper attention here in France through commemoration events and school curriculums. These efforts by myself and President Kagame cannot be considered exhaustive when it comes to research and uncovering the truth, and that must continue. I want to thank Professor Duclerc and his team for deciding to continue the important work they started 3 years ago, and even they acknowledge that they will not be the ones to conclude that work, but that their efforts will pave the way for others that will engage in that research later. I also thank the authorities in Rwanda for making this symposium possible, especially the faculty at the University of Rwanda, an initiative that will no doubt help to prevent the mistakes of the past from being repeated. I also commend the fact that young researchers from both Africa and Europe are represented in this first phase of the symposium taking place in Rwanda, with the second phase to take place in France next year. This is an indication that we are not afraid of debate in our quest to uncover the truth of what happened. Recent conflict in the region has reminded us of the importance of ensuring that history does not repeat itself through bad decisions. I wish you all the best in the debates, research, and other work that lies ahead in the months and years to come.
Vous souhaitez d'excellents travaux, un plein succès, une pleine réussite pour les débats, les travaux, les recherches qui seront les vôtres à cette occasion dans les mois qui viennent et dans les années qui viennent.
Last year, after the Duclair and Muse reports on France's role in the genocide against the Tutsi were made public, President Emmanuel Macron made a historic visit to Rwanda, cementing the new chapter in the relations between the two countries.
The First Lady of the Republic of Rwanda, Her Excellency Jeannette Kagame, has urged survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi to stay resilient and fight against those who deny the genocide against the Tutsi. The First Lady reiterated this while officiating an inauguration of the Memorial Garden located in Nyanza Kicukiro district in Kigali City. Olive Ntete brings us this report.
The garden is located at the top of the hill of Kicukiro, where the memorial of Nyanza of Kicukiro is located. Some of the people who have their loved ones buried in the memorial say that the garden is a great symbol to them and that they value it immensely. It is a symbol of resurrection because we faced death here. Our loved ones are here. We take this place as home, where we will come often and visit our loved ones, a place where we will speak to them and think that they are not gone forever, because the images we still have in our minds are images of despair and death. We never knew that after 28 years there will be this kind of life.
turashimira abagitekereje bakagishyira mu bikorwa uyu munsi tukaba turimo kubona.
We appreciate those who thought of this initiative and implemented it. Today we are seeing its importance because it is a garden that speaks to us. When we look at it, we listen. We remember a number of things. This hill used to be dirty, but now there is life of our beloved ones that calls us to come here. It no longer has a bad smell like when they used to throw garbage here, but it has a good smell of our loved ones. We smell it and feel good. We loved the garden. We will come here, sit, and we will speak to our loved ones through it. Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, the Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, noted that this garden was conceived due to various reasons, including showing how Rwandans were resilient.
Bwerekana ko jenoside nubwo yasize ibikomere ndengakamere ntiyabaye iherezo ry'u Rwanda.
It shows that even though the genocide left terrible wounds, it didn't become the end of Rwanda. That's why there are grasses in the garden from various parts of Rwanda, which is a symbol that genocide was carried out across the country. But the country survived the horrible history. Rwandans are united and they are patriotic. This garden of memory will assist elders who were there in 1994, those who were born after the genocide, the current youth, and the upcoming generation to remember an important part of the history of what Rwanda went through. That's why the garden is made of flowers, trees, pathways, valleys, and pits that reminds people of where Tutsis were hiding and where some of them survived. We can call these spots a symbol of transfer from darkness to light.
While officially inaugurating the garden, the First Lady of the Republic of Rwanda, Her Excellency Jeannette Kagame, laid wreaths on graves where victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi are buried at the Memorial of Nyanza of Kicukiro and visited various parts of the garden. In her message, she once again comforted those who lost their loved ones in the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and stressed that they will keep fighting against deniers of the genocide.
To
our beloved ones that we remember, your light will shine forever. Every time we commit to commemorate and preserve our history, you will never be forgotten. Those who deny your death still have a long way which will never end. Her Excellency Jeannette Kagame also urged Rwandans in general to draw strength to continue rebuilding themselves through various symbols found in the garden.
Dans ce jardin existe de l'amour pour vous.
In this garden exists love for you, the respect of your bravery, and a new promise that we will never go through the sorrow that brought us here today. That love, that respect, and that commitment live through every flower, every stone, plant, and every symbol that surrounds us. May you find strength through it. Use this garden to know more on our history, and may you be inspired by this garden and by its existence. May you find strength to fight for the country, against deniers and against the lost sheep.
Et contre ces brebis égarées.
The garden consists of 15 various parts, including a sorghum field as a symbol of where people used to hide during the genocide against the Tutsi, a garden of flowers, swamps, a marshland, a flame of hope, and other various parts. This garden is on an area of about 3 hectares. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Thank you, Olive. Now, the African diaspora community has joined in the mourning of the longest reigning monarch's legacy, celebrating Queen Elizabeth II's unprecedented 7-year reign globally. Earlier in the day, I spoke to David Adeola, a royalist residing in the UK, about his reaction to the news and why the mixed reactions from the African community.
Reaction was that of sadness. And I really mourned her, and I have known her for most of my life as just a woman of faith and a woman that was much loved by the nation. However, within the Black community, there's been a mixed reaction, where we have some people that truly loved her, and it's more like a Teflon, and the Queen could do no wrong. And whereas there's the other side, and that other side has been trending massively on Twitter, on Instagram, on the social media, and these are the ones that have a concern with the personification of colonialism in Africa and the Caribbean. And I would say these are the ones that are looking at the history, and they are angry, and they are not necessarily mourning her. And but this is how the mixed reaction has been. It has been about the colonialism. While they recognized that the Queen was not the architect of colonialism, there was something very important that they felt she should have done. And that was for her to have made an apology, and that was for her to have made some reparations. They believe she has enormous wealth, and she could have done any one of those two things. But for some of us also, someone like me, I'm a royalist. I do not have any apologies for that. I saw her as simply the Queen. I saw her humanity. I mean, within my own lifetime, because a lot of the people complaining were not even born when she started. They were not even born when we had the history. However, history is history, and we must recognize that we would always have those two parts.
I also asked his take on whether or not the royal family will respond to the shared sentiments.
Recent trip of William to the Caribbeans, he came back with a very thoughtful thing, and he made a speech there about those ones that are actually clamoring for their independence, wanting to be a republic, and to see such a young man answer them in a very clear tone that they will not stand in the way of anyone wanting their independence from the Commonwealth. Even though a lot of them would rather still be part of the Commonwealth, but they don't want to be under the sovereignty of the Queen. But William did answer them very well. But I believe the King now would have to have a different conversation. It would have to recognize the history of the past, the history of colonialism. Some of them were damaging, some of them were not very good. I would imagine if William is speaking this way, I think it is something that is probably part of their conversation now, and how to maybe say sorry, apologize, and that is by recognizing what has gone out in the past and how they can make reparations for it. Because, an apology comes with a reparation.
Yes.
Once you make an apology, people expect something from you.
Queen Elizabeth II, the longest-serving monarch of the British Empire, was born Elizabeth Alexandra Mary Windsor in Mayfair, London on the 21st April 1926 and came to the throne in 1952. The Queen died at the age of 96 peacefully on Thursday afternoon at her Scottish estate, putting an end to a reign that lasted 7 decades. Moving on, the Minister of Local Government, Jean-Marie Vianney Gatabazi, has urged local authorities in Gakenke district to get closer to their residents and solve their problems. He also urged them to reduce excess meetings that end up hindering their duties. Adam Squizera with more.
This was urged by Minister Gatabazi while they were concluding a retreat of the 97 executive secretaries of Gakenke district. In a 3-day retreat, the executive secretaries of the cells had discussions about their role in providing their residents the services, security, and development. It was also pointed by the Minister of Local Government, who noted that in order to solve residents' problems at the desired level, these leaders should approach them, and some of the meetings that was hindering this approach should be reduced. We requested them to reduce those excess meetings and put much efforts in implementing their development policies, but also approaching the residents and solve their problems in order to have enough time for the residents to run their development activities. Nizeyimana Jean-Marie Vianney pointed out that this retreat aimed to bring some changes in local administrations. They should first approach their citizens, understand and solve their problems, and they should also consult the government policies and implement them, as these changes should be occurred in a very short time. After this retreat, the Minister of Local Government had discussions with the local leaders who says that they learned much from this retreat regarding to providing services to their local residents.
We were urged to engage with the residents since sometimes we call them in meeting and we think the message was well delivered. As today, we decided that we are going to approach them house to house.
We will be visiting the residents in order to understand their problems. For the problems that will need advanced authorities, will be given to them with the purpose of solving each and every problem. Accelerating government programs regarding to the country's vision, involving the local leaders, was the theme of this retreat of SAL's executive secretaries. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Adams. Now, the recently concluded AGRF Summit 2022 here in Kigali was a great opportunity for major players in Africa's agricultural development efforts to come together and strategize on how to move forward in the face of the challenges that the continent has continued to face. Our colleague Jean-Pierre Kagabo conducted a series of interviews on the sidelines of the gathering, and the following is one of them.
Okay, my name is Joe DeVries, and I'm president of Seed Systems Group. At Seed Systems Group, we're passionate about getting better seed, climate resilient and higher yielding seed to farmers in countries that have so far been left behind in the African Green Revolution. There are about 15 countries, home to 330 million people, 40 million farmers, where farmers have no access to improved seed. And in these countries, child malnutrition levels average 40%. In addition, the average population growth rate is 3%, meaning that the population is doubling approximately every 25 years. So we feel this is an urgent need to stave off hunger and improve incomes among those farmers so that they have choices, so that they can send their children to better schools, so that they can buy medicines and improve their homes and improve their livelihoods. So that is what we do. Basically, we work across the seed value chain, testing new varieties that have already been developed. We don't have to do the breeding this time around because hundreds of new higher yielding and more climate resilient varieties have been developed already. So we're transferring those into these left behind countries to be tested, then multiplied and distributed to farmers. This time around as well, we're including a vigorous campaign to inform farmers of the value of the new seed through the supply of small packs that are promoted by village-based advisors. So, that's our mission. Currently, we're working in 7 countries, Eritrea, South Sudan, Somalia, Djibouti, Madagascar, Togo, and Senegal. And the results on the ground so far have been really exciting. We find that people in these countries realize, that seed is key to their futures, and that without it, they can't really get their agricultural systems moving. The AGRF Summit so far has been really great. We've been able to meet with various collaborators, people who fund our work currently, like IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, as well as the Canadian government through the IDRC. We're talking with new potential partners about new countries. I've had conversations about maybe expanding our work into the Great Lakes region, including Burundi and Congo. And we're looking at new horizons, but specifically in those countries that we feel have not received sufficient assistance to develop their seed supply. Because our experience has shown so far, you can pave roads, you can put in irrigation systems, you can even bring fertilizer. But for agriculture to really take off, farmers need access to quality seed of high-yielding varieties. All the regions of the world were in the same situation as Africa prior to adopting the cultivation of higher-yielding seed. When you're using centuries-old technology, your farmers can't really take off in terms of their productivity. So, Africa should not consider itself necessarily to be, disadvantaged or by nature of low productivity. Farmers are intensely interested in increasing their yields. And, it's a misperception sometimes among people that Africa's farmers prefer their traditional food and production systems, but it's not true. They simply need to be presented in a fair way, within the proper context, ways of increasing their productivity. So, we look at it as a tremendous opportunity. In areas where I've had the chance to work previously through my affiliations with AGRA and with the Rockefeller Foundation prior to that, we've seen that any chance farmers have to improve their lives and livelihoods, they will take it, provided it works within their local context. So, I think, we unfortunately had a bit of a disruption of our activities during the COVID pandemic. That was tragic. We lost 2 years, but we can regain them now, provided the donors realize we have something going. There is momentum. And, thankfully, a few of them have stepped up and said, no, we get what Seed Systems Group is about. We also want this continent to move together, forward together, and not in part. So these 15 countries that I've made reference to, now they need to be brought in. Now's the time. We've got proof of concept on this work. AGRA has seen it. USAID has seen it. IFAD now is joining the force. Other people are excited about the possibility of bringing the rest of the continent into the fold of those countries that are able to feed themselves, that are even able to help feed the rest of the world in the future. I think it is past time. But I also think, we need to realize the African agriculture of a decade ago is not the same one we're seeing today. I could take you to parts of Kenya and Tanzania and Uganda, here in Rwanda, where farmers are enjoying 3-4 times the productivity they had just 10 years ago. We see this wherever better seed has reached farmers.
And that's it for RTV News today, but thank you so much for choosing us. And for now, it's good night. We'll talk to you soon.